When you choose a chief minister, do you go with the choice of the elected legislators, which is the textbook way of doing it, or do you go with the larger sentiment of the party? On Tell Me Why this week, why did Congress choose 61-year-old VD Satheesan instead of KC Venugopal, who had 47 out of the total 63 MLAs on his side? Here's what I found. First up, for those outside Kerala, a little bit about Satheesan's career. If you read my colleague Vishnu Verma's profile of him in HT, you'll know that Satheesan is really someone who's risen through the ranks. First of all, he took on the leader of the opposition mantle when the party was down and out in 2021, when the Pinarayi Vijay government made a surprise comeback. What he has to show for himself in his CV is that as leader of opposition, he didn't just win 4 of the 5 by-polls that happened in his term, he also delivered in the 2024 general elections, with Congress winning 14 seats and the coalition winning 18 out of 20. So he has consistently worked hard as a legislator for 25 years and been loyal to the party by not demanding any positions until these cycle of assembly elections where he was the main leader. So when he has fought well and won, why is it that the Congress took 10 days to come to this decision? It's because Congress's General Secretary organization, KC Venugopal, threw his hat in the ring. Venugopal is like the most powerful office bearer of the Congress party. He decides how the party is run, and in Kerala's context, he also decided everything about who gets how much money to fight the elections. The other thing that everyone knows about KC Venugopal is that he is considered very close to Rahul Gandhi. He was with him throughout the Bharat Jodo Yatra, for example. So everyone assumed, if the boss man likes you, surely you will be CM. They argued that Satheesan may have earned his due as LOP, but Venugopal too had run the party when they were just 54 MPs. He too, they said, had worked hard with allies and should get the credit for raising the tally to 100 MPs in 2024. So when the central observers went and asked the MLAs who was their choice, a majority apparently said KCV, as he's popularly known. It seemed a done deal, especially to all of us in Delhi. But then rumblings from the ground grew louder. First, there were protests by party workers and Satheesan supporters. And then there was also a major social media campaign warning the central leadership that they shouldn't go against the popular mandate. They pointed out that MLA's vote shouldn't be the only consideration because there was a conflict of interest. MLAs had got their election funding from KCV, so of course they were going to choose him. As the Congress party debated the pros and cons, one thing became very apparent to them. If they chose KC Venugopal, they were forcing 2 elections on themselves. Instead of just getting down to governing, they would first have to work on KC Venugopal's attempt to win an MLA seat. Second, they would also then have to work on another election to find a replacement for KCV's MP seat. This was expensive, and more importantly, governance would take a back seat for another 6 to 7 months. Party workers argued that they didn't give tickets to MPs who wanted to fight the polls, leaving it to local leaders. So why should an MP parachute into reckoning once the election was won? The second important reason they chose Satheesan over KC Venugopal was to erase the impression that Rahul Gandhi would let his personal likes mar his judgment. It seems that Gandhi was keen to dissociate himself from any such impression, which had really become the tenor of the social media narrative. It's of course a great strategy by Satheesan's supporters to fight his case on social media. And KC Venugopal supporters point out that this outpouring of support for Satheesan wasn't all that organic. However, I spoke to people who have reported from the ground who say that while Satheesan did manage his social media narrative well, he does command the support of voters and party workers on the ground. And if you speak to the BJP and left in the state, they'll tell you that it's the Muslim League who swung it for Satheesan. That may be true, and the Muslim vote in the state is a very significant chunk of 27% of the entire electorate. But Satheesan has taken a strong stand against communalism in the state, and that may not be a bad thing. However, one can expect this theme to dominate politics in Kerala in the coming months. To sum up, you may hear that this is the first time that local sentiments have got the better of the High Command, that in being forced to pick Satheesan, Rahul Gandhi looks weak, but I look at it a little differently. This has happened many times before, and not just in the Congress but in the BJP too. A previous example of this in the Congress was when the fight between Sachin Pilot and Ashok Gehlot happened. Pilot was even at that time seen as Gandhi's choice, but Gehlot flexed just like Satheesan did and became unmovable. Now, you may think it only happens in Congress because they are weak and central party right now, they've been out of power, so the central command is weak and BJP's central command is strong. But I just want to point out what happened in 2021 in Assam. At that time, Sarbananda Sonowal was the chief minister going into elections, and when they won, many thought that he would come back as he was the overall popular face. But after a week of negotiations, Himanta Biswa Sarma successfully wrested that position from him, arguing that the party had won Assam in 2016 because of him, and he had waited around till 2021, but he was not going to wait any longer. It's negotiations like these by people like Himanta Biswa Sarma or Gehlot, or even in the latest case like we've seen, Satheesan, which makes someone a master politician. And so VD Satheesan's time has certainly come too.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले.
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest news makers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the US will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Deep dive into burning issues.
It's often said DRC could be the richest country in the whole world. It's because of what sits underneath.
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HT videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.